So, you want to own Booty Bay. Start with the fee, because the fee is the entire business. Sell something through the auction house in this port, and the house takes 15%. Sell the identical item in your own faction's capital, guarded by your own army, under your own king, and the cut is 5. 3 times the price, for the same transaction in a pirate town on the most dangerous coastline on the continent. And people pay it. Every day, in volume, by choice, with a cheaper option available. Which tells you immediately that whatever is being sold here, it is not shelf space and it is not shipping. So let us find out what that 15% actually buys.
Start with the asset, because on paper it is unimpressive. A goblin port town nailed to the cliffs of a jungle bay. Timber platforms, rope bridges, a harbour, an inn, a bank, a flight master, and an auction house. No walls worth the name. No standing army. No sovereign backing it. It is run by a goblin baron and a company of pirates who own the docks, the ships, and the town in the same breath. Every structure here could be burned by either army in an afternoon, and neither one does it. That refusal, held for years by 2 sides who agree on nothing else, is the actual asset on this balance sheet.
And look at where it sits, because the location is deliberately terrible. Strangle-Torn Vale is a contested jungle. Raptors, tigers, trolls, and 2 armies that hunt each other through it on sight. There is no safe road in. Every trader arriving overland has crossed hostile ground to get here, and knows it. A rational merchant would put a port somewhere calm, defended and friendly, somewhere with a road, a garrison, and a friendly crown behind it. This one is placed precisely where the 2 war fronts overlap, and that is not a mistake in the siting, it is the entire product. You are not selling access to a coastline, you are selling access to the 1 square of ground on it where nobody is allowed to swing first.
So, price the obvious business, and watch it come apart. Docking fees, warehousing, a cut of the fishing, an inn, a tavern, all real, all small, and all of it available in a dozen safer harbours on the same sea. Nobody crosses a jungle full of trolls to rent a bed. Nobody pays a 15% premium for warehousing when 5% warehousing exists behind city walls. As a port, this place is a marginal operation in a bad neighbourhood with a security problem. The goods are not the business. They never were. The goods are simply what the customers happen to be carrying when they arrive. And if the cargo were the point, this town would have died out decades ago, undercut by every safer harbour on the coast. It did not die. Something else is being sold here.
Here is the part that sounds like scenery and is actually the ledger. 2 enormous factions are at war across this entire world. They do not share cities, they do not share roads, banks, or markets. On sight, in the open, they kill each other. And an economy split cleanly down the middle is an economy where half of everything produced cannot reach half of everyone who wants it. A blacksmith on one side has a customer on the other who will never legally reach him. That gap is not a story problem. It is a market failure with a measurable price. And Booty Bay is the only address in the world that closes it.
So, state the product plainly. Booty Bay does not sell goods, or beds, or dock space. It sells an enforceable truce, by the hour, to people who cannot otherwise be in the same room. The auction house here is the only one both armies may use. The bank here is the only vault both sides will walk into. The tavern here is the only room where an officer of one army can sit 6 feet from an officer of the other, and neither draws. That is the inventory. Not a commodity, not a service, a condition. And it is a condition nobody else on the map is able to supply.
And once you see it that way, the 15% stops looking greedy and starts looking cheap. Because the alternative is not a 5% auction house. The alternative is no transaction at all. A seller with an item the other faction desperately wants has exactly two options: accept the lower price his own half of the market will bear, or pay the toll and reach the whole of it. When a good is scarce on one side and common on the other, the price gap between the two halves is routinely far larger than 15%. The toll is not a tax on his profit. The toll is the reason there is a profit.
And this is not a fantasy fee. It is the standard rate card of every marketplace on Earth. Large online marketplaces take somewhere between 10 and 15% of each sale. Application stores have historically taken 30%. Escrow and clearing services take 1 to 3%, simply for standing between two parties who do not trust each other. None of these businesses manufacture anything. What every one of them sells is the same product Booty Bay sells, a place where a transaction can happen safely between people who would otherwise never deal. Booty Bay simply charges it in a world where the alternative to trust is not inconvenience, it is a knife, which is precisely why it can charge 3 times the going rate and never once run short of customers.
This is where the money actually goes. A promise of safety is worthless unless somebody expensive is standing behind it. So the town keeps Bruisers, enormous, permanent, heavily armed guards posted on every platform and walkway. Strike anyone inside the town, of any faction, for any reason, and they kill you immediately and without discussion. Not arrest, not fine. Kill. Call it 20 Bruisers, on duty every day of the year, and you are buying more than 7,000 guard days annually before you have sold a single item. That is not overhead. In this business, enforcement is the cost of goods sold, because enforcement is the good. Every other marketplace on Earth spends its security budget protecting the inventory. This one spends it protecting the customers from each other, which is a far harder problem and a far more expensive one.
And notice how brutally consistent the enforcement has to be. A truce that holds for one faction and bends for the other is not a truce, it is an ambush, and it is worth nothing the moment anyone suspects it. So the rule is applied identically to everyone, including allies, including customers, including the wealthy. The Bruisers do not investigate who started it. That refusal to weigh circumstances looks like stupidity and is in fact the product specification. A rule that is never negotiated is a rule that can be relied upon without trust, and reliability without trust is exactly what both armies are buying. The moment there is one exception, the 15% becomes unsellable.
Which raises a question worth pricing. Why is this town owned by goblins? Not because they are better sailors or better traders, but because they are the only party on the map whose neutrality is structurally believable. A human port would be suspected of favoring one side, an orcish one the other. A goblin cartel is suspected of favoring money, which both sides find entirely credible and, more importantly, entirely predictable. You cannot bribe a neutral party into betraying you if their whole business model is the neutrality itself. And the cartel runs the same arrangement in several ports across the world, which means the reputation is not local. It is a brand, and it is the most valuable thing they own.
And the pricing is stranger than it first appears,
because it is not the same for everyone. The cartel runs a standing reputation system. Trade here often enough, do enough work for them, and their vendors quietly cut your prices by up to a fifth at the top tier. That is a loyalty program, and it does exactly what loyalty programs are built to do. It makes leaving expensive. A trader who has spent months earning that discount will route through this port even when a shorter, safer option exists, because the discount is not transferable anywhere else. They are not just charging a toll on the crossing, they are steadily making themselves the crossing.
Then the costs that never appear on the invoice. Reputational exposure, which is total. One credible accusation of favoritism and the entire premium evaporates overnight. Enforcement casualties, because the Bruisers are not decorative and the people they stop are frequently the strongest individuals in the world. Political exposure, since both factions could formally outlaw trading here at any moment, and the town has no answer if they do. Piracy, which cuts both ways, because the same fleet that protects the harbour also raids the sea lanes feeding it. And the deepest one, this business is only valuable while the war continues. Peace would be a catastrophe for the balance sheet.
So close the book. On one side, a 15% take rate on the only shared marketplace in a world of several million traders, plus banking, docking, lodging, and a loyalty program that quietly locks in the best customers. On the other, a permanent standing garrison, a fleet, no walls, no sovereign, no legal recourse, and a product that dies instantly if it is ever delivered inconsistently. And underneath all of it, one structural fact. This port produces nothing, grows nothing, mines nothing, and manufactures nothing. Its entire revenue is a fee charged for a condition that costs money to maintain and can be destroyed by a single afternoon of bad discipline.
Convert it, and the shape is completely familiar. Priced as a port, this is a small, badly located harbour with an unusually large security budget. Priced as a marketplace, it is a 10 to 15% take rate business with no inventory, no manufacturing, and no logistics, which is the most profitable shape a company can have. But priced honestly, it is neither. It is a firm that discovered the most valuable commodity in a divided world is not steel or gold or grain. It is a room where the fighting stops. So should you buy Booty Bay? Yes, and understand exactly what you are buying. Because the lesson underneath this port is that in any market split by a wall, the richest position is never on either side of it. It is on the gate.